Well, good morning, committee and guests. Today we are going to be looking at the state fair and its guidelines and what the expenditures are. And then when we finish the state fair, we will go back to the Department of Agriculture and to answer the question that was asked, to take care of that. So we'll just begin with the state fair, and we'll start with Luke. You want to begin with your analysis, and welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. All righty. You all should have a copy of the budget analysis for the state fair. My name is Luke Drury, and I am a fiscal analyst with Kansas Legislative Research Department. I'll be going through the budget analysis for the fair, and then Brian Scholes behind me is the general manager, and he will offer some comments, be able to answer questions, some testimony as well. So this front page here is pretty standard, just shows actual expenditures 22, agency governor 2024. You'll notice there that there is some SGF in 2023. 14.5 million, that is related to capital improvement plans that were approved last year by the 2022 legislature. However, I would like to start my presentation on page 3. As you can notice by the chart here for the state general fund, a little bit halfway down the page, prior to 2018, SGF monies were only used for debt service expenditures for the fair. However, in 2021, the agency did receive $2.3 million from the coronavirus relief account. And then additionally, the legislature appropriated $14.45 million from the SGF for 2023 for fair capital improvement budgets. And we will get to the capital improvements a little bit later on, and we'll go through those. If we turn over then to page number 4. At the top of the page here is an analysis of the state fair fee fund. As you all know, revenues collected from the state fair, folks go to the fair, pay to come in. Those mostly are used to for expenditures for the fair. However, when you look at actual expenditures, you see a big drop there in 2021. Of course, that is related to the coronavirus pandemic. And then additionally, if you look down below that, it'll show you revenues and expenditures along with ending balances from the state fair fee fund. And revenues and expenditures were relatively stable. And then, of course, you see in 2021 a big drop in revenues and expenditures from the state fair fee fund. Yeah, so then we pull on over then to page number 5. We'll get into some of the harder numbers. So up here at the top, 2023 analysis, what we start off with is the amount approved by the 2022 legislature. As you all can see, that amount was $20.9 million from all funds, including $14.6 from the general fund. There was one change to the approved amount, and that comes in the form of reappropriations from the general fund. Like other agencies, this agency has reappropriation authority, meaning if they don't spend all of their money in a given year, it will roll over into the new year, and so that $36,000 has rolled into 2023. Below that, and I should also note that the numbers on the table on the left-hand side, 1, 2, 3, 4, they will correspond with the numbers on the left-hand side as we go down the page. So the number 2 here is where we will start with the agency's revised estimates. So item number 2 is contractual service expenditures. For 2023, the agency is estimating an increase for contractual service expenditures, $931,000. Most of that is attributable to advertising, building and ground repairs, and entertainer contracts, you know, the folks that come to the fair, performers, etc., that would be included in there. Additionally, item number 3 then would be the addition of 2 FTE positions and the associated funding with that. The agency indicates that a fully staffed fair operates at 28 FTE positions. During the coronavirus pandemic, staffing levels went down, and so the agency is estimating and requesting to bring those back up to historically normal levels. Item number 4 is all other adjustments, and so this is sort of the other items, right, kind of the rats and cats sort of things. Items here in this particular adjustment involved some increases for materials and supplies specifically for the grounds at the fair, and those were partially offset by some reduced expenditures for capital outlay items such as vehicles and software. Chair, if you'd like, I can go ahead and continue on, or I can stand for questions.
Take a question quick here. So, Senator Dahl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your work. I got page 3. Salaries, you know, I saw we're adding two new full-time positions, but that's almost $500,000 more from 22 to 24. Am I seeing that correctly?
Mr. Chair, is the question, is that for 20, you said from 22 to 24 or 22 to 23?
Well, as FY 2024 salaries, the very top one. I'm talking from the first column to the fourth column.
Right. So you're saying, Mr. Chair, if I understand the question, 1.8 million to, like you say, 2.3 million in 2024. I believe that I'll be able to touch on that when we get to the 2024 analysis. And if not, I will speak to it, though.
Okay, and then I'd want the same thing on the contractual services.
Sure.
And then one more question, if you don't mind. On page 5, when we're contracting with the Kansas Department of Agriculture, you're paying it directly to the agriculture dude. You're not paying it to the individual who's doing this. He's not getting paid by you and the Department of Ag or by the parent Department of Ag, correct?
Mr. Chair, I don't have that information in front of me. That may be a question that I need to look into a little bit and you're talking, and again, if I'm understanding that payments from the fair to entertainers, the question is do the entertainers get that money directly?
No, you said on part 3 on the agency estimate, one of those FTE positions being contracted out by the Kansas Department of Agriculture for accounting services. Is that paid directly to the Department of Ag? I'm sure it is. I'm just questioning.
Yeah, now I understand the question. And although that is a question that I need to look into specifically because I don't know at the top of my head. Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Proceed, Chair.
All righty. Then if we pull over to page number 7, we'll talk about changes from the 2023 agency revised estimate and actual expenditures. As you can see here, agency estimates revised expenditures of $22.1 million in 2023. That is a large increase over 2022 expenditures, about 239% over 2022 expenditures. However, a huge portion of that, $15.6 million, is the total. 14.5 of that, or 14.6 of that, is capital improvements, including some renovations to the Bison Arena, road repairs, air conditioning units, renovations to the Expo Center, et cetera. So that's where most of those changes are. Additionally, as we talked about before, there are some increases for contractual services, specifically for entertainers and advertising, that also account for the change from 22 actual expenditures to the 2023 agency revised estimate. And then if we move over to page number 8. Again, at the top of the page here is a table for you all. We start with the agency's revised estimate from 2023, and from there we identify changes and point those out for the 2024 agency request. Again, the numbers correspond with the numbers below. For item number 1, that's completed capital improvement projects, as we just spoke about, $14.5 million. The agency is estimating for those monies to be spent in the current year and will not roll forward into the new year, into 2024, and so therefore those monies are being pulled out. In addition to that, the SGF reappropriations totaling $36,000. The agency estimates to spend the entirety of that reappropriation in the current year in 2023 and will not roll those dollars forward into 2024. Additionally, item number 3 then is all other adjustments. Again, various different items across different expenditures categories. But in particular, again, this is relating to entertainer contracts, marketing and advertising, and in addition to that, some increased estimates for utilities in 2024. These are also partially offset by reduced expenditures for vehicles, office furniture, things of that nature. And then, Mr. Chair, I did fail to during the 2023 analysis, the governor does recommend or concur with the agency's request for 2023, and additionally for 2024, the governor concurs with the agency's request as well. And I can stand for questions if there are any.
All right, committee, any questions for Luke there on the numbers? Seeing none.
And then if I may, Mr. Chair, on the very back page is the capital improvements for you all. Here you can see 2022 actuals along with the agency's request for 23 and 24. The governor does concur with these, and as you can tell, many of these projects are new, no expenditures from 2022, and you do see that many of them will be paid in 2023, will fall off and not be carried over into 2024. Some general ongoing maintenance will continue on, but the big ones, Bison Arena, air conditioning units, some grandstand repairs, those will be completed in the current year. And at this point, if there are any other questions, I'd be happy to stand for them.
Any other questions for Luke? Seeing none. Do you have one, Senator Francisco?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we now allow the fair to keep the sales tax that they earn, or some of that?
Mr. Chair, that's a question that I am unfamiliar with. I will need to look into that.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Luke. We'll figure that one out yet, and we'll move on. So,
Thank you.
At this time, I would ask Mr. Brian Schultz from the manager of the Kansas State Fair if he has a few comments about the fair. Welcome to the committee.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come in front of you today to just give you a little overview of the Kansas State Fair and some of the updates that are going on here at the Kansas State Fair. I do have our PowerPoint we'll be putting up. Okay, and you also have one in your packet there. So as you're all aware, the Kansas State Fair's branding is celebrating all things Kansas. This will be our 110th year of the Kansas State Fair coming up here in 2023. Average attendance is about 350,000 people. This last year we were about 317,000. Again, this is just going to be a quick overview. I know a lot of you know about the Kansas State Fair, but just gives you a quick overview of who we are and how we run. So how we're governed, we are a 13-member board that is selected by the governor. We have representatives from the Kansas Chamber of Commerce, the Fairs and Festivals, the travel industry, the Northwest Extension District, Southwest Extension District, South Central Extension District, Northeast and Southeast Extension District, as well as a representative from the Secretary of Agriculture, a designee from the Extension, somebody from the Department of Commerce, and then we have 2 at-large members as well. So where does our money come from? Being a fee-funded agency, we are constantly out trying to bring in new events into the grounds besides the 10 days of the Kansas State Fair. So it would be our non-fair events. We do roughly about 600 events other than the Kansas State Fair year-round. Also, it comes from our commercial vendors, our corporate sponsors, our food sales, our RV park, gate admissions, our concert tickets, and then our midway sales. And that's how all of our funds are generated. So to give you a little bit of an overview of the 2022 Kansas State Fair, our gate admissions, as you can see, from 2019, we went from 278,000 in 21 to 281, almost 282. And this last year, we went up to just shy of 316,000, about a 10.56% increase. Our gate admission revenue recap, about 1.3 in 2019. 2021, we were a 15.51% decrease. With the pandemic, that we saw that was a big drop there. And then in 2022, 2.7 million, about a 58% increase. Our grandstand entertainment recap, in 2019, we had roughly 430,000 in paid concert tickets. That was an 86% of show paid. When I say that word, what I'm meaning is if it costs us $600,000, we were 86% of that is what we had recouped. In 2021, our revenue went up to $530,000, and we were at 115% of show budget paid. And here in 2022, we are at $895,000, which was a 151% show paid and 43.63% increase over 21. And then those numbers again are after taxes and gate. North American Midway is our carnival purveyor. And you will see here where revenues continue to grow every year. Here in 2022, they had a $1.8 million gross for the carnival, which was a 9.624% increase over 21. The alcohol beverage sales, this we're attributing a lot to our SB2 that was approved last year. In 2019, we had about 327,000 in gross sales. 2021, we had 384,000, which was a 14.69% increase. And in 2022, we had 679,918, which was a 43.51% increase. We attribute that a lot to, again, to Senate Bill 2, allowing people to move around the grounds. We did have a conversation with a lot of people. They were very excited about it. The first few days, we didn't really see an increase on it. But then when people kind of caught on that it was available, there was a lot of people that were very happy. We also worked with the Highway Patrol, and the incident rate had dropped even lower than it was before because people weren't sitting into the designated beer gardens and just drinking one after another. They were able to leisurely walk the grounds. So now the next step that I'm going to talk about is the upgrades that we're going to do to the Kansas State Fair with the dollars that we received last session. And thank you again very much for those dollars. So overall, in that $14.45 million, these are some of the projects that we're looking at. The Oz Gallery, putting air conditioning in, roughly $250,000. This was our proposed costs. Same thing with Centennial Hall. Our Expo Center, this was to redo the bathrooms, do some of the arena, put some updates into that building, $450,000. Asphalt renovations, about $2.5 million. Public address system, $1 million. And then the Bison Arena, $10 million to start renovations on that. So this was the 14.45 that was approved last year. So I'll get into like the Oz Gallery and 4-H Centennial Hall. We did get an estimate. We did put an estimate for $250,000. The estimate came in at $241,000, and that's the same thing for 4-H Centennial. Both of these buildings are scheduled to be done by August, so that creature comfort will be available for this year's fair. The Expo Center Phase 2. Phase 1 was began in 2021. That is where we redid the roof, the sidewalls, refurbished the columns in there, our ventilation, electrical upgrades, new lighting, and this was a KDA finance project of $1.3 million. And then we went into Phase 2. The Phase 1 was a bonded program. Phase 2 is where we wanted to upgrade the concrete around the arena and the fencing. And as you can see, pouring cement and cleaning up that area. We're estimating that about $150,000 out of the $450,000. Our next step is, and you can see here, what will be replaced will be this wall around the arena. That'll go the full distance. And then we will also change out the fencing that goes around the arena. You can see how bad it is. And some of the areas that are still in dirt, we're fixing that and putting it into concrete. We're also upgrading our restrooms. These have not been done for a long time. We are in the process right now, completely sandblasted the restrooms, putting an epoxy coating from top to bottom so they're easily cleanable, changing out all the fixtures, and putting up new partitions. Estimated cost on that is $225,000. And you can see from these photos, this is what the original ones look like, so they definitely needed to be changed out. I was hoping to have pictures because they're in final stages, but I didn't have them. We're also replacing the doors in that building for about $35,000. So to date, overhead doors have not been purchased, but the restroom and miscellaneous upgrades were at $323,050 out of that $450,000. Asphalt upgrades on the grounds. This is going to include a full overlay and places in the grounds, and I'll show you some pictures here shortly. Last year, with the high heat, we had a lot of spalling, and the underbase has started giving away, so we're going to get all that fixed up. We're estimating about 2.5 once we get done, and we're hoping to have the project begin here in April. These are just some of what the streets and byways look like out at the campus. That yellow there is something that happened right in the middle of fair this last year, where the base kind of just went out and it started to fail, so we had to go in with some patch to fix it up. And the asphalt upgrades to date, our initial round came in at $1.25 million, but that doesn't include any base work or anything like that. So we're estimating about another $1 million at minimum once we start looking at the base. Our public address system, this is something that really surprised me when I started 19 months ago, that being in the tornado alley, we didn't have a way to tell people that there was some imminent danger, or if we had an active shooter or something like that. Kansas Highway Patrol had to run around the grounds and tell people to take cover. So we have been working with Hop Sound out of McPherson and putting in a system that is very similar to the system that you see at SeaWorld. Interactive through all the buildings. We can preset 72 different messages throughout the day. If we have issues, we'll be able to contact people and tell them to take cover. Right now, our estimated cost on that was $1,092,000. The new estimate that came in and we have paid out thus far is going to be about $1,020,000 so far on the project. The Bison Arena, as you're aware of, was built in 1937 for $103,000, was used in World War II by the Navy, and in 2019, the fire marshal shut us down because it was not ADA compliant, nor did it have proper doors, and it was just not usable, so we've been using it as storage. Our plan is to repurpose this into an Ag Innovation Center, and in the last 2 days, we've been hosting focus groups. Thank you, Senator McGinn, for attending one of those groups. We had about 60 people that were in attendance talking about what the future of that building would look like. So the upgrades would be a full renovation, estimated cost just on the, we're not even 100% sure if that's going to cover it, but about $20 million. The plan right now is the focus groups were finished. We'll go into the design phase here in the next month and a half. After that, that will give us the opportunity to get better cost on it, just to bring the building up to code with structural, new windows, plumbing, electrical, all that is about $10.6 million. And that's just to get the envelope sealed up properly. And then the rest of it will be building the inside of it. So these are just some photos of what we're hoping that the building will look like, having an area on the north side, and then the interior being able to use as a flat floor entertainment area in addition to an Ag Innovation Center. So again, I just want to say thank you very much for all the support that you've given the Kansas State Fair. The traditions that come out of that fair are enormous. I get the opportunity to talk to people as they're walking the grounds, asking them why they come to the fair. And I talk to people that are 10 years old to 90 years old, and the message that we get, it's traditions, bringing our kids here, getting them involved in 4-H and FFA, and just learning about how great it is to come to the Kansas State Fair. Next year, our dates are September 8th through the 17th, and I'll stand for questions.
Okay, thank you, Brian. I appreciate that very much. I do have a question. How many days of the year is the fair in operation, or somebody doing something there?
Like I said, we do about 600 events other than the Kansas State Fair. This weekend, we have a very large cattle show, but we also, on some weekends, we have up to 8 different events going on the grounds, from a wedding quinceañera to a gun and knife show to flea markets. Just about anything you can imagine we've got going on the grounds.
Okay, thank you very much. Senator Dahl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How many full-time employees?
We have 26 currently.
How much of this work is, that you do is in-house? I'm sure quite a lot.
The vast majority of it. We do have a plumber, HVAC. We do have a electrician. We do have a carpenter. So the vast majority of the work is done in-house for the projects that we can get to. Now, a lot of the big projects, we have had to bid those out.
Senator Straub.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Brian, for being here today. I think we may have talked about this last year or the previous year, but the Bison Arena, and I fully understand the historical aspect of it, but how much would it cost to completely build a new facility of that square footage?
When we did the initial look at it, it was going to be very close to that same amount of money. Because when you start looking at tearing that down completely and doing the footings and everything like that, you're going to be looking at least a $20 million project.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Reichman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for this presentation. There's a lot of information in here.
Thank you.
I got to get some new glasses. I had trouble reading the ones with the blue and the yellow in the background. On number 6, on the fees, I'd be just kind of be interested how much that you make on, from the vendors and so on and so forth when they got in there. If you just email it, I'm just.
Yes, I can do a full breakdown, and I can email that to you.
Okay. And secondly, wow, all these projects, and it's going to be a new place, okay, or it is. Quite an undertaking. It's like changing your house. You keep adding on and on. Do we have a total amount that of all these projects together, and how much it's going to cost, and how much you got paid for, or anything like that?
Well, the initial was that $14.45 million. That will cover all the updates that we want to do, other than the additional monies that we're going to need to raise for the Bison Arena. And we won't know what that additional over the $10 million will be until we get the cost analysis done for the project. And at that point in time, we will be going out and working with sponsors to raise the rest of that money.
Thank you. I just want to add on, if it's okay, one more. On the beer sales, I voted against that just because I do that. But when we did, we had it was going to be in just the small area of the when we did it in committee, and now I see it's all through the arena, or not the arena, but the place. I don't know how that happened, but I see you're making some money on it.
Mr. Senator, my understanding of the way the bill was written is that it was given to the board of directors to set up a 3-dimensional area where beer sales could be sold on the grounds. And at this point in time, so when we have a car show, we're able to go in and say, you can only sell beer and have people walk around between these streets. It was very difficult for us to say that you can only have it between this street and this street because of the sheer number of security that we would have had. That is why the board of directors decided that it would be within the fence line. And there was, I believe, 6 buildings that were excluded from where you could carry in the alcohol, education areas, obviously where the quilts and things were like that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So safety is a big thing for us. That's one of the things that we're looking with a lot of the projects that we're working on. And we did get a Spark grant. We just found out about that yesterday of $250,000 to create an incident command center on the grounds where all of our EMS, fire, all that can be together in one building. So if anything would happen, we'd have them all on grounds as well.
Just for a side, you have an idea how much beer sales were? I mean, and that's confidential. I'm just curious how effective that was.
Well, that's, as you can see from the numbers, our numbers went up to that 600 and, let me just pull it out here, $679,000 in alcohol sales.
I just got showed here.
Yeah.
I just overlooked it. Thank you
Yep.
very much, though.
Thank you. You all have a great day. I appreciate everything you do for us.
Sure welcome.
One more question.
Okay, Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your presentation. I think I brought this up last year, but I'd sure, what part does the city of Hutch or Reno County play in expenses?
Nothing, unfortunately.
I'd like to have a conversation sometime with you.
Yes, we do have a new mayor, and we do have a new city administrator, and we now have additional council members on the county. And that is something that I have approached them on, that they need to be behind us. I don't know if it's going anywhere, though, but yes, most definitely.
Find time, holler at me, okay?
All right, thank you very much again.
Anyone else, any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Appreciate all the work you do on behalf of the fair and all the stuff that goes on out there, so. Well, the committee will move on. We have one more item agenda, is on the Department of Agriculture, but we're going to conclude the work with the State Fair, and we'll proceed with a recommendation that we concur with the governor's budget with the change, whatever changes, we didn't make any changes, so is that okay with everybody? Unless you want to come back on Friday and make some recommendations. Senator Fagg. Senator Fagg. Oh, okay.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. We approve the report of the State Fair. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Will be recommended. So let's go, move over into the Department of Agriculture. And I believe one of the questions and has been passed out for you. I believe it should be on your desk there. And it's about employment rates and out there staffing for FTEs. And somebody want to come up and talk about that a little bit, or Luke or Kelly?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I can speak to that.
Okay.
Although, all right, let me grab a copy. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, my name is Luke Drury, legislative, with Legislative Research Fiscal Analyst. In front of you, I did take a look at FTE counts for the Department of Agriculture as requested. The blue line is actual FTEs, so that would be bodies in the seats at the desks. The orange would be what the legislative approved was for that given fiscal year, and then the gray is the governor's recommendation for FY 2023 and 2024.
Okay. Any questions on the draft? Senator Peck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I sincerely appreciate you providing this information. Two quick questions. What is the actual? It looks like it's 292. Do you have the actual for fiscal year 22?
Mr. Chair, I do have those numbers. It's just not on this graph. I can send those out. The numbers that go into the graph, I can do that.
Okay. It looks like it's around 292. I guess I'm going to presume that. And then it looks like the approved for 22 was maybe 331, but you do not have the actual numbers in front of you, correct?
At this time, no. I do have those, though, and I can send those out.
We're working the budget today.
Oh, I apologize. For 2022, I do have those numbers in front of me. For 2022, I have 297. That was their actual FTEs for FY 2022.
Thank you, Luke. Okay, committee. Any more questions on that? Senator Straub.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And we may have already spoken about some of this, but for how many unfilled FTEs do we currently still have in the department?
Mr. Chair, that I cannot speak to how many currently are unfilled with the department. I just have the data for what is approved in actuals.
Someone from the department want to comment on that, please? Thank you, Luke. Welcome to the committee.
Good morning. I'm Kellen Leapsh. I'm the CFO for KDA. And I'm actually going to follow up on Senator Peck's question real quick. So for fiscal year 22, we had 297 individuals that were employed at the end of fiscal year 22. So as of June 30th, 2022, we had 297 individuals. We had 332 approved positions for fiscal year 22. We also had enhancements for fiscal year 23, so moving into this current fiscal year, we had additional positions that were added though. But to answer your question, kind of that difference between the individuals we had at that point in time and the approved. So to your question, Senator Straub, the open positions we currently have, we have 33 open positions as of today's date.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just to follow up on that, are a lot of those positions like the inspectors? I know we spoke about this last year and probably the previous year, that we have a hard time finding some people to travel and do inspections for various things.
We actually looked at the positions yesterday, and I can't say that they're in any specific program. We have 15 different programs across the agency, and they're actually wide and varied on those open positions. So we do have some open positions in meat and poultry inspection, but we have openings in the Division of Water Resources for field office locations. So it's wide and varied across all of the programs within KDA.
Go ahead, one more.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Do we have an average of what those positions are paying? Is there something that's preventing the department from filling them, or is it just a labor shortage in general?
I don't necessarily have an average of those positions. I would specify that it's probably a labor shortage in general. I do have the total amount of those positions. We certainly could get an average, but from our purview, I would state none of those positions have been, a couple of them have been difficult to fill because of technical specifications that we're looking for, but I would specify that it would be due to the current job market and things of that nature.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just hope that the department would work closely with Kansas State University and finding some recent graduates to fill those positions.
I can assure you that's certainly top of mind.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you very much, Kellen. We appreciate that. Committee, I have one other item. I was approached about an amendment to change on the budget, and it dealt with do you have it? Oh, it's about on the soil health issue. So, Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you look on page 9, enhancement number 9, the governor's recommendation was $200,000. The agency had asked for $400,000. And doing a little research on that, I'm kind of big on getting the bang for the buck, and I think that they take these funds and they do different types of matches. And looking backwards with what they've done, in 2022, the division and KACD were able to leverage funds from this source to obtain a $500,000 grant from the National Fish and Wildlife Federation, as well as $4.3 million committed from Archer Daniel Midland to provide incentive payments to Kansas farmers for implementing conservation practices that cover improved soil health. Also in 2022, farmers planted 103,000 acres of cover crops across 50 counties through this program. And the goal is to extend additional soil health practices to an additional 300,000 over the life of the program. So I think when you look at this, this is also, it's estimated that the technical assistance will result in over $4 million in federal financial assistance provided to Kansas farmers to apply these adaptive practices. So it's not saying we're going to do this. They're telling us that, but I'm saying look backwards at what they've done. So to me, I feel like we're getting our dollars worth on this kind of thing. So with that, we really don't have a motion yet to have an amendment. So go ahead.
You're in progress of making one.
All right. So I'd move that the KDA request number 9, soil health, as listed in the legislative research budget document, be increased from $200,000 in the governor's budget to a total of $400,000.
There's a second here by Senator Ware. Any other discussion? Senator Fragman.
Thank you. And Senator Faggs, I want you to repeat that again about how much money we could bring in if we go ahead and go to 400,000, that number.
Well, it's estimated $4 million from federal financial assistance, and if we get deals like Archer, Daniel, Midland, like we did last year, we don't know what's out there. But having this fund makes it available for things that could happen, and they've proven to us that it has happened.
Thank you. I'm a yes.
Any other comments? Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I very much appreciate this, coming forward with this amendment. You know, we've heard that soil health can make a huge difference in terms of soil being able to retain moisture. So this certainly addresses some concerns, especially with the drought and other water issues.
Luke, I see your, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I may, the item is for, if I'm following, enhancement number 9, State Water Plan Fund Soil Health. The governor did not include the $200,000 in her recommendation. So as a point of clarification, is this to put $200,000 in?
Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The agency had requested 400, the governor said 200, and I'm saying that we take it back to the 400 as requested by the agency.
That's how I understood it, too.
And this is for FY 2024?
Yes. If you look on page 9, it talks about that, I think, on enhancement number 9.
Would this be on page 13 and 14, so that we're talking about the 2024 enhancement requests?
Yeah, here's the GovRex right here for enhancement request. Yeah. For soil health. Soil health right here, does not recommend. Mr. Chair, if I may, on page 14, page 9 is the description of the project. Page 14, a little bit down the line here, with it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, bullet number 5, the $200,000 for soil health. That funding would be used for the educational outreach as indicated. However, the agency's request was for $200,000 and the governor did not recommend the $200,000. So would the motion be to have that be a $400,000 from the State Water Plan Fund for soil health?
Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 400,000, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Luke, for getting that straight. But any other questions? Senator Peck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the motion is to give them double what they requested. Am I understanding correctly? They've requested 200. The motion is to give them 400.
Initially, we asked for 400,000. The governor only recommended 200,000, and he is saying we're going to redeem it back to 400,000. So it would increase by 2.
I didn't understand that from our research. Maybe he needs to restate. I thought he said that they requested 2. The governor said no. So we're giving them not 2, we're giving them 4.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, that would be correct, that the agency's request was for $200,000 specifically for the soil health item, and the governor did not recommend that. So the motion would, for $400,000, be double the agency's request for FY 2024 for soil health.
According to that, that's what. Sean, you have a comment on that? You want to make a comment on that, please?
Mr. Chairman, if you'd like me to, my name is Sean Miller. I represent the Kansas Association of Conservation Districts, and I may have made a little bit of a mess of this. So the Kansas Water Authority, during their budgeting process for the State Water Plan Fund, recommended $400,000 for this line item. So that was the request that we were trying to get back to. So as the agency goes back and forth with the budget, those numbers can kind of move a little bit. We were trying to get to the Kansas Water Authority's recommendation of $400,000 to provide these matching and in-kind matching to help draw down the kind of federal, private, nonprofit matching that Senator Fagg was talking about earlier. So my request of the committee, as I visited with folks in a short span, because I thought I had until tomorrow morning, but you guys are efficient, was to try to get back to the $400,000 Water Authority request or recommendation. So to clarify, $400,000 total is where we were trying to get to. So I apologize if I've confused anyone on that, but hopefully that cleared it up.
I think that's pretty straightforward. Senator Fagg, you have a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My comment would be just to focus on what the money has done and what we hope to do is what I would say. And they've proven they can do that. So that would be my comment.
All right, I think Senator Peck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When you look at the overall budget on page 1, there are significant increases in from 22 to the governor's rec for 24, $3.2 million of state general fund, all funds $11 million. The reason I mentioned that, number one, I think that's out of line, but number two, these funds, I believe, could be found somewhere within the agency to provide for this request. And so we are looking to start adding money in. Maybe there's several motions to reduce funding, Mr. Chairman, but when we start adding money in, it turns into an ongoing expenditure. Certainly, we've got money right now, but the economic forecasters are not saying that we will have money in the not-too-distant future. And as we add spending in, it just seems like it never goes away. So I'm hesitant to approve any additional funding above what the governor has already recommended when she's already recommended a $11 million increase from what 22 was. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you for those comments. Senator Ware.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Soil health just dovetails right into everything that we're talking about. The biggest issue across the state this year in any kind of ag conversation is water, and this is a critical part of it. I think that we should go ahead and do the 400,000. It has a good history, and it's critical. It's truly critical.
Any other questions? Senator Straub.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maybe just clarification on this. The department as a whole can exceed the budget of any one line item in the budget, but they just can't exceed the overall total, correct? Somebody help me.
Luke?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The question is about the individual line items. There are some line items in the appropriations bill, SGF, water plan fund, for specific purposes within specific accounts that an agency cannot spend over that. However, if they do have unlimited funds, they do have some flexibility. So to answer the question, for state water plan fund, which is what this would go in as a line item, and it would be for that purpose.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the water plan fund cannot exceed the appropriated budget.
Mr. Chair, that the line item appropriations from appropriated funds such as general fund and water plan fund, they do have expenditure limitations on that, so that would be correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Committee, we got the motion is made and seconded to add the amendment and make the amount $400,000. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In looking at this budget and the enhancement requests, my understanding is that $150,000 was approved for laboratory operational expenditures in 2023, but not approved by the governor for 2024. And so my understanding was this was additional cost of supplies. That won't change, and it won't be reduced in 2024. So I would make a motion that we add the $150,000 for laboratory operational expenditures for fiscal year 2024.
Good, second? Second by Senator Ware. Any discussion? Again.
Thank you. I'd like to ask the department, did the governor not recommend it because they already had the funding? So some of these areas, they have leftover funding.
For the laboratory program, you are correct. The governor did not recommend the enhancement request for $150,000 for fiscal year '24. However, that program does not have any carryover in their fee fund for fiscal year '24 to take care of these rising costs and supplies. The program is supported by a bevy of other agribusiness services divisions, but they personally do not have a carryover of fee funds to take care of that and weather these rising costs.
Any other comments or questions? Senator McGinn, you going to say something? Or? Just wanted to be sure. Okay. Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do think that we saw that these funds are needed for the budget for 2023. I think that we recognize there have been increased costs for supplies. I'd like to see that this laboratory work can get done.
Okay.
Make the motion.
We have a motion and a second, so we're going to vote. All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. Chair is in doubt. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion fails. Committee, that's all the work we have, that I have here for the committee. So.
What about the whole, are we going to do the whole budget?
Yeah, okay. Luke, what have we got there?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. I do want to pass out subcommittee report out procedures for the committee and briefly touch on this. Thank you, Mr. Chair. What this is the report out procedure. Just wanted to make sure that you all have this. Essentially, once the subcommittee, once the committee report is available, or I will put the committee report together and make it available to you all. And I'll send that out via email. You don't need to reply to the email. It's just, it will go out to you. Absence of reply will be considered agreement. If there is any minority reports that would like to be made, feel free to reach out to me, and I will help to facilitate that. And again, this is for your information.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Senator Fagg?
Mr. Chairman, do we need a recommendation to accept the deal as, I'm wondering if we need a general thing to do this.
I make a motion to move the Department of Ag's budget out of committee. Is that what you want?
That's what I want.
Okay.
Second? Is there a second? Senator Fagg?
Second.
Any other discussion? Senator Beck?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know how you want to handle this procedurally. I was hoping to be recognized before the motion was made. On page 11, number 17, the The department did not make this request. The governor threw it in on her own to add an additional FTE, and of course, the agency's not going to turn down the position and the money, but if they didn't ask for it, apparently it's not that important to them. So I was hoping to make a motion to strike on page 11, number 17, the request for additional taxpayer money of $100,000 and the additional FTE position for an executive staff position. So I will just leave it in your lap, Mr. Chairman, how you want to handle it. If you just want to move forward, I'll be voting no on the budget.
Okay.
I'll be voting no probably anyway.
Anyway, so then we're going to move forward. Do we have a motion to recommend, and that's what we're voting on?
Just a little clarification. I believe what I heard the secretary say is in the past, under Brownback, there were several deputy secretaries. And because of all the cuts that we had to do, they had to cut much of that out. So just a little clarification.
All right, then. Committee, ready to vote? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. We will recommend, this goes to Ways and Means now, and this has to be approved by them next when we report out. So we'll go through the amendment, and then they'll have their consideration, so.
Mr. Chair, can I be recorded as abstaining?
Okay, you sure can.
Thank you.
On the recommendation? Okay.